Hello and welcome to a very classical episode of Toonami Pre-Flight. I'm Gil.
I'm Jason.
And today we're going to talk Astro Boy from the 1960s, way back when, and some of our and your favorite black and white movies, plus a little look at Jason's favorite segment of the show.
Oh, yeah. Moving pictures, baby.
That he borderline forgot about.
Yep.
We got a music video sneak peek and some single stuff.
It's a video game sneak peek. Oh, yeah. Music video sneak peek and game review.
Yeah. So
A whole bunch of shit.
Stocked full.
I'm surprised by all the goodness. Why don't you go first, Gil?
I think that might take a second as...
I guess we got to talk about Astro Boy first.
Yeah.
Astro Boy. Thoughts?
I like Astro Boy. I did not... Mike Lazo grew up watching Astro Boy.
That's untrue. Mike Lazo hates anime.
Clearly, our pre-show meeting was just a total shit show.
I'm sorry to inform you that the internet has decided Mike Lazo hates anime, so
it's true.
That's untrue.
He bore that out after seeing Astro Boy as a child, but he's an even older old man than we are.
His hatred of anime formed at a young age.
So Astro Boy was out of syndication by the time I was
alive. It was in the 70s.
I think it stopped
running. It was on
running
at like 5 in the morning.
I think it stopped running early mid-70s.
Yeah, and
I was born on the early side of the mid-70s. So I never saw Astro Boy until working on Toonami, I would think. In terms of full episodes, I saw
it in college because film festivals would come and stuff, and they would have stuff from other countries, but it was never on TV that I found when I was a kid. Mike Lazo grew up watching it as a youth, and it's one of the more seminal programs for him.
We should have had him on the show and brought down the Astro Boy statue.
He bought from the Astro Boy Museum in Tokyo. He has bought 2 life-size Astro Boy sort of standees that are both about $6,000 each. So that's how much he hates anime, that he bought those at the museum in Tokyo and had them shipped to our office so they could be there. So one is Astro Boy sleeping in like his sleep chamber, and one is him standing. And they're both
in his stand chamber.
One is now at his condo, and one
we should give out the address and people can go by and
which you can go visit by just simply Google. But yeah, so Lazo loved Astro Boy, and so I just knew of it because when you look into anime, Astro Boy is probably the first popular anime, and certainly one of the first ones to come across into the U.S. And the creator Osamu Tezuka is considered the Walt Disney of Japan because not single-handedly, but he basically laid the blueprint for manga and anime in terms of the look and stylization, the large eyes that anime sort of stylistically is widely known for. He set that style, and he also was a hugely prolific sort of genius who wrote all kinds of crazy stories. He's written some really adult manga, and he's written some really... like Astro Boy is basically for kids. So it's a seminal sort of piece of work, and it's been remade twice. There was an Astro Boy in the 80s, which is pretty good. And then there was an Astro Boy in the 2000s that we showed for a bit that was pretty good.
A month.
And they're both actually pretty good too. And then there's a CG movie, which isn't so great, that Gendy Tartakovsky sort of was involved with trying to develop. I don't think he ended up working on the final product.
I don't think so.
But that was like one of Gendy's projects for a while. So Astro Boy has sort of been deeply tied to the genesis of Adult Swim because the reason Mike wants to show anime, one of them is because he loves Astro Boy. And so in going back to the show, it's really crazy to watch it now because it's such a different time. But it's got some ideas and some concepts that are still pretty much, pretty advanced, and the kind of things people talk about now in terms of artificial intelligence and determinism, and like there's a robot rights law in Astro Boy. So the story of Astro Boy is basically Astro Boy is created by a scientist whose son is killed in a car wreck. So he's insane with grief, and he decides, I'm going to recreate my son, but I'm going to make him indestructible. So he creates a robot basically modeled after his son. But then once he creates him, he realizes, he basically is like, you're not my son, and then just kicks him out. So then Astro Boy joins the circus. So it's like a very 60s, like, I'm going to run away and join the circus, very 60s idea. So Astro Boy runs away and joins the circus, and then slowly discovers his powers. And then simultaneously, there is a robot law passed stating that robots should have the right to determine their own sort of lives. Like they can do what they want. So it's like a Bill of Rights for robots. And after that's passed, Astro Boy is allowed to sort of do what he wants, and he doesn't have to live at the circus anymore. So he basically then just, solves problems. So there's another scientist who works with the government who helps Astro Boy, and then eventually they build him a sister, and they build him a brother, and there's sort of a rotating group of enemies that are usually mad scientists of some kind.
It's a lot of scientists.
Yeah,
and,
it's very much an atomic age. It's very interesting because it's the Japanese version of the early '60s, '50s in the U.S. was definitely the atomic age, and the power of science was sort of part of our popular culture, and it was obviously look at the wonderful new things technology can do, But in Japan, there was a darker side to that because they saw firsthand what technology can do in the form of the atomic bomb. So, and they had to rebuild their whole society post World War II. So their take on it, I would argue, even on a kid's show like Astro Boy, is somewhat more inherently pessimistic and sort of cautious about both what technology means and sort of the effects of new technology. So Astro Boy is fundamentally a sad character because he's lonely because there's no one like him. And ultimately, in the final episode of the first old school one that ran for 193 episodes, it ends with Astro Boy sacrificing himself to save humanity by flying into the sun, which sounds like Iron Giant. And then, of course,
doesn't seem like a good plan.
They ignore. Well, he saved humanity. But so they kind of ignore that when they reboot it, obviously. But Astro Boy is always fundamentally sort of an outsider character because he's
a little boy who's not actually a little boy,
right? And he wants to be a good person, but he's not a person, quote unquote, in that classic sense. So obviously, you could go real deep with Astro Boy, or you could just watch it as a fun sort of adventure show. I think it's great. I love the style of it. I love Tezuka's line style. He was amazing. I have a lot of his comics or manga. I've read a bunch of Astro Boy. I actually collected the manga for a while, but there's just too many volumes. I eventually was just like, I can't do this. I just didn't have the shelf space. But so let's check out. So Adult Swim showed it in 2008 and 9.
7 and 8.
7 and 8. And just sort of late at night. We also showed it on an April Fool's Toonami, on our April Fool's Toonami when we came back because we still had the rights to it. So Lazo obviously loved it enough to bring it back and put it on in the middle of the night because, he hates anime so much. So we ran that for, we ran the 52 of the dubbed episodes that are the old school dub, which you can get from Right Stuff. I believe they have a box DVD set of all of the entire series. So we ran 52 for a year and a half. And they didn't do a promo because it was 4 a.m, but they did some bumps. So check out they did an Astro Boy marathon at one point. So check out the Astro Boy
Christmas marathon
bump. We'll begin in 15 seconds.
Just watch the screen.
It's Astro Boy.
Chris Kringle. What does that mean, darling?
It means we're all doomed.
No!
Switch on.
And for you marathon complainers, please note that's from 2007, and it was a holiday, and they were doing a marathon. Do you see a pattern? I see a pattern. So I'm also going to show you guys a trailer for Astro Boy that I think is from Right Stuff, but just gives you an idea for the feel of the show. It's super old school, but I would argue if you can get past the fact that it's inherently
70 years old.
Yeah, so old, it's still worth checking out. So check out this trailer.
There you go, Astro Boy, on your flight into space. Rocket high through the sky, for adventure soon you will make. Astro Boy bombs away on your mission today. Here's the countdown and the blast of everything is go, Astro Boy. Astro Boy, as you fly, strange new worlds you will find. Atom cell, jet propelled, fighting monsters high in the sky. Astro Boy, there you go. Will you find friends or foes? Cosmic Ranger, laugh at danger. Everything is go, Astro Boy. Crowds will cheer you. You're a hero as you go, 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 Astro Boy.
So yeah, he's got all kinds of powers, super strength, he can fly.
100,000 times horsepower. Or
He's got
whatever it is.
radar. Yeah, he has a machine gun in his ass, which I think is a fairly unique feature.
It's not so. I haven't.
But you
seen it in my
can
eyes.
tell just from watching that, like a lot of what you will watch today in anime, in terms of shots, in terms of compositions, a lot of it was set by that show and by Tezuka. So just on a design level, and as a person who likes anime, if you have any interest in the origins of what you're watching,
the classics.
I would say check out Astro Boy. You won't be disappointed. The other two color ones are pretty good too. I think the 80s one is actually really good, and the one we showed, while it didn't do very well, is actually really good too. I don't think there's a bad Astro Boy series. Obviously, there's more available in Japan than I've been able to see, but of the ones that I've seen, I haven't thought any of them were bad.
There was supposed to be one in development. I don't know where.
I think there's just always going to. I think Astro Boy is like Gigantor. It's just going to keep coming around because it's so seminal that every 10 to 20 years someone's going to reboot it. You know what I mean? Which is like all good art. It just keeps sort of echoing through time. So Gil, that led us to our subject of this week, which is, what's your favorite black and white movie, since Astro Boy is a black and white show?
See the connection?
So we're going to let Gil
Thinking.
kick it off. Gil?
So first for me is the 1993 Steven Spielberg movie Schindler's List.
Classic.
I was
Love that movie.
looking through my list. I wasn't intentionally going out and finding newer movies that are also black and white, but it turns out that I actually was doing just
You
that.
just picked new black and white movies?
Well, I mean, new, relatively new. Not movies that were from the 50s.
I, for some reason, just was stuck in a
40s.
loop in my brain, and I picked 3 movies that are around from when Astro Boy came out, but you went with 3 new movies. I mean, it's there's not a superior approach.
Except for
Your choices are pretty great. Mine
Yeah.
are too, though, so go to hell.
Team 1 and Team A here today. No
Gotcha.
second tiers.
I gotcha.
So let's watch this super horrific scene from Schindler's List and then talk a little bit about
Cool.
the movie to brighten up your Friday. Here we go.
What are you making?
Hinges, sir.
I've got some workers coming in tomorrow. Where the hell are they from again?
Yugoslavia, Commandant.
I've got to make room. Make me a hinge.
Yes, sir. Looking fit to pressure. By 25,000.
Oh, that's very good. But I'm a bit confused, and perhaps you can help me. What I don't understand is that you've been working since, I think, about 6 this morning. Yet, such a small pile of hinges. Oh, Christ.
Yeah, try that, sir.
Check the angle lever. Maybe it's bent.
No. You wouldn't hear a click. It was the angle of it, the pin.
Maybe it's the pin. Maybe the pin shaft is
come on.
greasy.
What did I just say? Yeah. Herr Commandant,
Let me see.
I beg to report that my heap of hinges was so unsatisfactory because the machines were being recalibrated this morning. I was put on to shoveling coal.
Strange, huh?
So
That's a nice morning pick-me-up.
Ray Fiennes as Eamon Gert in his amazing
Debut.
awful role.
His film debut.
Yeah.
Yeah, that scene's crazy because he doesn't even give a shit. He just wants to fucking shoot somebody, and that's all he cares about. He didn't even care what the guy has. He's just like wants to murder him.
Yeah.
And that the dudes were like, they didn't
Just
care one
casually-
way or the other. They just walk away like, well.
Yeah. But yeah, so
That movie's awesome, though. I love Schindler's List. Fun story. My wife
fun.
had to watch that movie when she was in college because one of her professors made her, and then another class made her, and then some other thing. So she had like 4 college field trips where they made her watch the movie. And she obviously thought it was a great movie, but she doesn't really care for, that's a hard movie to watch. Like, I am a sick bastard, and I love the filmmaking in that movie, so I could throw Schindler's List on at 8 in the morning and eat my cereal, and it's no big deal because it's a hard movie to watch, but the filmmaking is so exhilarating. You know what I mean? But my wife is like, what are you doing? Like, you're watching people go to the gas chamber while you eat your cereal, which I get. So she was forced to see that movie, so she's like, I'm never watching that movie again because every time it just wrung her out completely.
They were saying that when Spielberg went back to finish his BA in film, he submitted that as his student film, or they accepted it. I can't remember. I don't know if he really was just like
both a baller move, but also a dick move at the same time.
But it was like,
here's my film,
or they just said you don't need to submit one because it was the same year that this came out. I don't know which one it was.
What's even crazier to me is this came out the same year as Jurassic Park.
Yeah, they said he had that he put it in his contract. I have to do Jurassic Park first because he knew after he did this movie that he couldn't then
He'd have
go
to take a break.
Yeah,
He'd
he was like, I'm going to be so wrung out that I can't go then.
No doubt.
Delight at giant dinosaurs romping through the fields. So
yeah, and they use black and white well in the movie. I mean, I think the black and white, his use of black and white is less about the classic noir like chiaroscuro, and it's more about making it look and feel like
of a time,
a documentary from back then. I mean, to me, it looks like the footage we would see in high school of concentration camps that the soldiers filmed when they liberated Europe. And I think that adds to although it does have some beautiful photography, especially in the Liam Neeson parts. But yeah, awesome movie.
So second for me is another warm, cuddly film. Feel good picture of the year. 1980, Martin Scorsese, Raging Bull.
Yeah, when you told me you were picking Raging Bull, I was actually mad. I hadn't thought of it. I mean, my picks are all great, but Raging Bull is one of my favorite movies, and I can't believe it didn't immediately come to my mind.
I was also surprised. Typically, I make my picks based off of Jason's, and sometimes I call dibs, but I didn't call dibs on Raging Bull, figuring that I was going to get trumped, but in fact, I did
honestly
not.
didn't think about it. I was so stuck in the one era.
I didn't know until I was looking up stuff about this that this was the movie that Robert De Niro convinced Scorsese to make while he was recovering from his cocaine addiction, and that he credits with saving his life. I did not remember that story from when it came out. So, coming from a deep, dark place of addiction and sadness, you get to see Jake LaMotta's life story writ large on the screen. And while a good fighter, he was not the most loving of men. So
Not a great dude.
Let's check out the trailer for Raging Bull.
The Bronx Bull, the Raging Bull. Let's hear for the great Jake LaMotta, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm the best. I can take him more than anybody.
You're dead. You're married. Leave the young girls for me.
There's no way I'm going down. I don't go down for nobody.
Listen, madame, why does you have to make it so hard on yourself?
If you beat Sugar Ray, you'll get a shot at the title. You feel that way?
There's no one else around who wants to fight me. They're all afraid.
There's a lot of bad things, Joey. Maybe it's coming back to me.
Remember when Robert De Niro was worth watching?
Yeah.
Seems like a long time ago.
It was a long time ago, 1980.
But he was the man for a good while.
And then Rocky and Bullwinkle took over.
It really was right around that time. Yeah, and I still have a theory that I have a theory that if those Fockers movies didn't do well, he might not have stuck on that path. But he just started making so much money, he was like, I can just do nothing and make 5 jokes as the straight man. Let some other asshole do all the work and roll in and make cash.
He took a dramatic turn in The Intern as an older gentleman coming back into the workforce.
It was so bad. Raging Bull rules is some of the best editing I've seen in any movie ever. And I'd be hard-pressed to say if this or Goodfellas is Scorsese's best film.
I mean, I definitely enjoy watching Goodfellas.
I've watched Goodfellas way more times, but
Raging Bull is amazing.
It's the real deal.
So,
but also his black and white is, again, it's more like Spielberg's and Schindler's List. It's more to make it feel of a time with those old fight photos that he studied.
He was saying, too, that it was because there was going to be so much blood that he thought it was going to get
censored,
dinged, so that if it was black and white, that it wouldn't be as horrific, and also to set it aside from, or set it apart from Rocky.
Yeah, because, I mean, if you were going to make a boxing movie in 1980... You're going to make a boxing movie now, people just say Rocky,
right?
Let alone in 1980.
So, yeah. And then third for me is Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. Stanley Kubrick, 1964.
Now you're in the era of the Astro Boy era.
Yeah, so this one was Kubrick's last black and white movie, I think.
Yeah.
And so... What do I have? Let's watch the trailer and then talk a little bit about Dr. Strangelove.
Attack!
Russia.
Oh. Base.
10 females to each male.
The Coca-Cola machine.
Fluids.
The Doomsday Machine.
Blast off!
Where's my shorts?
Where's the bathroom?
Buck, should I get it?
On the hotline.
Dr. Strangelove.
Or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and
Love the bomb. A moving picture.
I shouldn't tell you this, Mandrake, but you're a good officer and you have a right to know. It looks like we're in a shooting war.
Hell. All the Russians involved, sir?
Well, boys, I reckon this is it. Nuclear combat toe-to-toe with the Ruskies.
I don't like the look of this, Fred. I tell you what you better do, old buddy.
I was under the impression that I was the only one in authority to order the use of nuclear weapons.
That's right, sir. You are the only person authorized to do so. And although I hate to judge before all the facts are in, it's beginning to look like General Ripper exceeded his authority.
I first became aware of it, Mandrake, during the physical act of love.
Missile still deflecting. Range 1 mile.
Start lever to cut off. Cut off. Engine power.
Has that plane really got a chance of getting through?
Well, sir, if the pilot's good, see, I mean, if he's really sharp, he can barrel that baby in so low. I mean, you ought to see it sometime. It's a sight. A big plane like a 52. Vroom! It's jet exhaust frying chickens in the barnyard.
Dr. Strangelove.
Or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and
Love the bomb. A moving picture.
So yeah, this might be my favorite Kubrick movie.
I was actually thinking it's one of my least favorites. It's still a great movie, but like that's like choosing.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't like it anywhere near as much as almost any of his color films.
Yeah, I mean, actually, The
like it,
Shining's
though.
probably my favorite one. But anyway, again, picking amongst the best of the best.
Yeah, that's like.
But so Sterling Hayden, story-wise, is that he's a general who believes, much like some conspiracy theorists in the 50s, that the fluoridization of water was a communist plot against us.
People
So-
still believe that.
Yeah.
That's now people's conspiracy theorists, not communists, but that it's a mind control.
Yeah. Luckily, no one drinks tap water anymore, so I don't think it'll be an issue.
I do.
Well, you fucked up. Now they got you. So he triggers basically World War III, the launch of bombers, and one of which cannot be recalled. And they actually changed the sort of chain of command at the Air Force based on this movie because they were like, I think that actually could.
That would be a
happen.
bad idea if that happened, yeah.
There's a pretty great scene.
Good job, Air Force.
They have there that's President saying, I thought I was the only one who had the authority to trigger a nuclear launch. George C. Scott says, yes. And it appears that General, whatever his name is, Bud, has really overstepped his bounds. But yeah, so this movie, obviously a dark comedy, very much of the time then, but I think is a great movie and also one that's black and white. So it hit.
Good job.
Hit both things for me.
You did it. You got there.
I nailed it.
Well done.
And there's a lot of great, I think like any Kubrick movie set, there's a bunch of amazing set stories that came out of it. So go on the internet and check some out after you watch Dr. Strangelove. That will do it for me. Jason, do you have some favorite black and white movies you'd like to share?
Sure. Mine are all from the 60s. My first choice is actually this was the oldest of the movies we're talking about. Charles Laughton's Night of the Hunter from 1955, starring Robert Mitchum, the great Robert Mitchum, and Lillian Gish, and a whole bunch of other good actors. But basically, this is sort of a one-of-a-kind movie. Charles Laughton never directed another movie after this because it wasn't well received. He was a very well-known actor, and he very much wanted to make a German expressionist noir set in the rural South. So it's one of the most beautiful black and white movies in terms of just using, essentially great black and white photography to me is how well you're using, it's all about light. It's all about how well you're using shadow and light and the interplay between them. And this is such a incredible example of that. The movie itself is basically Robert Mitchum is a serial killer posing as a preacher, and he ends up being thrown in jail because he gets busted driving a stolen car. And the guy he's in jail with robbed a bank and killed someone and is going to be executed. But the guy kept the money and he hid it in his daughter's doll. And Robert Mitchum spends his time in jail trying to get the guy to tell him where the money's hidden, and he won't tell him, but he gets enough to know that the kids probably know where it is. So he finds the guy's widow and marries her so that he can get closer to the kids. And the kids don't trust him because the dad told the kids, don't tell anybody where the money is. And they know something's wrong with Robert Mitchum because he's creepy as shit. He has tattoos, love and hate on his fingers. And he ends up murdering their mom, and they end up running from him. And he ends up they end up hiding in this home where this local old lady takes care of like wayward youth. And so she's like the light to Robert Mitchum's darkness, and she protects them. And so it's about whether or not Robert Mitchum's going to bust in and kill them, kill the old lady. So this is a scene with Lillian Gish. Robert Mitchum is basically intimidating them by sitting outside of their house in the middle of the night singing Baptist songs. And Lillian Gish, who's supposed to be the flip side of him, starts singing with him while she's sitting on her porch with her shotgun waiting for him to come at her. So it's like a super creepy but really great scene. So I'm just going to show you this scene. If you like this scene and the photography, you'll love the movie. So check it out.
Leaning, safe and secure from all alarms. Leaning on the everlasting arms. What a fellowship, what a joy divine, leaning on the everlasting arms. What a blessedness, what a peace is mine, leaning on the everlasting arms.
Leaning on Jesus, leaning on Jesus, safe and secure from all alarms. Leaning on Jesus, leaning on Jesus, leaning on the everlasting arms.
Shame on you, Ruby. Running around the house after that mad dog of a man. Mr. Evans. Ruby, go get the children out of bed and bring them down here. Women are such germ fools.
It's a hard world for little things.
I mean, come on. That's the best thing you're going to watch all day. So, heavy symbolism, obviously. There's like 10 different things going on in that scene, but I love how he's singing like, I'm gonna kill you, and she's like, I'm gonna shoot you. But that movie's a heavy influence on Scorsese. He's talked about it a bunch. Heavy influence on the Coens. They've talked about it a bunch. Spielberg. Pretty much all of your favorite filmmakers were heavily influenced by that movie, and it's crazy to me that Charles Lawton never directed another movie. Sometimes you just do one great movie and then you're done. So that was 1955. The next film I want to talk about is from 1958, and that is Orson Welles' classic Touch of Evil. So the story behind this movie is hilarious. Basically, Orson Welles went to his agent and was like, I want you to find me the worst script that you possibly can because I want to prove that I can make a great movie out of even the most dog shit script. So his agent found the script that ended up becoming Touch of Evil. Orson Welles sort of knocked it up. He reached out to Charlton Heston because originally Orson Welles was just going to produce it and act in it. And he did a sort of a writing pass. He reached out to Charlton Heston to play the main role, and Charlton Heston told the studio, if you let Orson Welles direct it, I will definitely do the movie. If you don't, I don't know, I might be too busy. So they didn't want to let Orson Welles direct it, but they were like, yeah, fine, if we can get Charlton Heston. So Charlton Heston plays a Mexican, which wouldn't happen today. But so this movie is about basically these guys drive a car across. They don't specify the name of the town, but it's on the Mexican-American border. So it's basically like a Tijuana type town, but on the American side. So they drive a car across the bridge and it explodes, killing a bunch of people in this American town. So Charlton Heston's character is the investigator, and Orson Welles' character is the corrupt local cop who's also supposed to be investigating. And then Janet Leigh plays Charlton Heston's girlfriend. So it's just a really lurid, classic film noir. Again, typical film noir tropes. Nobody's trustworthy. Everybody's got something going on. Super pessimistic. And it's got some amazing photography. Again, the use of black and white is pretty incredible. And it's known for its 3-minute tracking shot that starts the film that's been widely copied from many, many directors. So this is, I believe this is a trailer for Touch of Evil. So check it out. I was able to see it on the big screen about 10 years ago, and it was pretty amazing. There was a restoration because, of course, the studio recut it, took it away from him, recut it, did reshoots, ruined it, chopped it all up, and then many years later there was a painstaking... the editor, Walter Murch, did a painstaking restoration based on Orson Welles' notes, and it's the superior version for sure. So check out a trailer for Touch of Evil.
Tell me who's in charge here?
Well, I guess you've heard of Hank Quinlan, our local police celebrity.
What are you trying to do?
I'm trying to strap you to the electric chair. You framed that boy. Framed him!
This is Mrs. Vargas talking. I just wanted to make sure I wouldn't be disturbed.
Don't you worry, Mrs. Vargas. Nobody's going to get through to you. Unless I say so.
Are you telling me you never planted any evidence, Sergeant?
Planting evidence. Framing suspect.
That's a lie. I think I can prove it, Sergeant. What do I do?
Keep after him. Break him. Break him.
He's gonna leave this town wishing he and that wife of his had never been born.
Where's my wife?
Captain, you won't have any trouble with me. You bet your sweet life I won't.
Yeah, I mean, Wells obviously ahead of his time in so many ways. When it comes to composition, editing, and camera movement, it just feels like you're watching a modern movie. It's pretty crazy. So Touch of Evil, if you haven't seen it, I would check it out. I think it's a better place to start with Wells' work than Citizen Kane, which can be a bit much to take in, especially for if you're a younger person. And then finally, my last choice is 1960s Psycho, which is Alfred Hitchcock's last black and white film. Actually, he did his film right before this was Shadow of a Doubt, I think. Whatever it was a color film, and he scared the studio because he shot this with a TV crew, and he wanted to do it super cheap in black and white because I think he knew that it was going to be challenging to do in color for the same reason Scorsese did Raging Bull because of all the blood. But Psycho is obviously almost a cliche at this point, but it was so far ahead of its time, it's almost impossible to explain. But in terms of subject matter alone, a movie back then dealing with psychosexual sadism and violence, I mean, it's essentially the first slasher film. It's just crazy how far ahead of its time it was. And it was also crazy back then. They marketed the whole movie as Janet Leigh was the star, and Hitchcock didn't tell anybody that she dies like a third of the way through the movie. So nobody that was watching the movie had any idea. It would be like watching a Tom Cruise movie and having Tom Cruise get killed half an hour in or something. It's not a spoiler alert. It's from 1960, Gil. You like spoilers. So there's a million trillion modern trailers for Psycho. So I just picked one at random. There's a whole bunch. They're all pretty good. People just sort of love that movie and want to cut it. But again, the use of black and white is, I think at the end of the black and white era, it really reached a pinnacle in terms of how to photograph black and white and make it look crisp and use the shadow and light in an amazing, expressive way. I think most movies, even now, there's always one or two people a year who decide to do a black and white movie. They just shoot it in color and don't really, they do it in post and it just doesn't look like it's composed for black and white. Like, to me, there's usually a difference in terms of how it looks. So this is just a trailer for Psycho. If you haven't seen it, I know it's a cliche, but you should watch it. It's a legitimately great movie. One of Hitchcock's top 5 easily.
Sure. This movie scared the shit out of me when I was a kid.
Really? It never scared me.
Stopping at weird little hotels.
It's legit creepy.
Family trips. No, we're not staying here.
It's legit creepy. And in the 60s, the idea that a man would, a trans person, just the idea of a trans person. Arguably, it probably did more harm to the trans community, right, long term. But because it helped create a negative connotation, you know what I mean? But it's still a great movie. So check out this recut trailer for this old school movie.
Here we have a quiet little motel, when in fact it has now become known as the scene of the crime.
You have a vacancy?
Oh, we have 12 vacancies.
You know, this is the first place that looks like it's hiding from the world.
I think that we're all in our private traps, clamped in them. And none of us can ever get out.
Is anyone at home?
Oh, that must be my mother.
Is anything wrong?
Am I acting as if there's something wrong?
She's not missing so much as she's run away.
Put me down. Mother! Oh, God! Mother!
What are you running away from?
She looked like a wrong one to you?
It's not as if she were a maniac. She just goes a little mad sometimes.
Why, she wouldn't even harm a fly.
Anthony Perkins was so good in that movie, he basically never escaped from that role, returning to it for 3 80 sequels after Hitchcock died, all of which I've seen and like. I also enjoy the Bates Motel TV show, which you should check out. So those are our black and white picks, and now it's time to see the Adult Swim picks for favorite black and white. Oh my God! Clerks. Look,
the fuck.
I just want to say, if Clerks is your favorite black and white movie, that the only way that's an acceptable answer is if it's literally the only black and white film you've ever seen. Because not only is it not really a good movie, it's not a good black and white movie. It's just a Kevin
cheap movie.
Yeah, it's a cheap movie. Like, get a grip. Dr. Strangelove, a perennial favorite choice. Night of the Living Dead, I almost picked, but ultimately there are so many better. It was the first of its kind, but there are better zombie movies, so I just...
And we've talked about it before.
Yeah, Sin City is a really cool shot for black and white movie. And of course, It's a Wonderful Life is just a great movie, period. So that's good. Let's see if the Toonami picks had a little more sense in their black and white choices. Young for Clerks again!
Young Frankenstein.
Young Frankenstein is terrific and particularly timely. Gene Wilder recently passing. Rest in peace, Gene. I love Young Frankenstein. That's a great movie. And also shot for black and white. It's a gorgeous black and white movie.
Kevin Smith, sadly, still with us.
Clerks is a piece of shit, and you guys should be ashamed for picking that movie. Godzilla is an amazing black and white movie that was almost on my list. Seven Samurai, of course, we've talked about before. And I actually don't...
You don't like Casablanca, right?
I don't like Casablanca,
I like
but
Casablanca,
many do.
yeah.
And I can't say it's not a good movie. I just don't really care for it.
Sure.
I have a block with, like, older... Like, once you get past, like, 1945, there's very few movies I can really watch. Like...
There was somebody, I can't remember who, talking about it, but it was one of the people commenting on this, said, all the movies before 1950 I can't watch... They don't suck, but
no,
I think they suck.
Exactly. I've watched them for film class, and my mother is a huge old school film fan, so I grew up with those black and white movies playing all the time. But other than the occasional noir or something, I'm too far from that history, from that era, to be able to like lose myself in a movie. Or if the movie's really bad, like Clerks. And you should know better than picking it, then, I can't lose myself in Clerks because it's a bag of shit.
There you go.
No offense, Clerks fans. Actually, I do mean offense.
I don't think that's true.
It's true. I do mean offense. You should know better. You should do better. Look at the great movies we presented you, and you chose Clerks.
Well, now they know. And no one's half the battle.
I mean, we can still be friends and disagree. So let's go to this week's first sneak peek, which is a game I played and enjoyed called Hyper Light Drifter. It was a PlayStation 4 downloadable, and I think it's gorgeous. It's like an 8-bit, 16-bit influenced by anime, post-apocalyptic stuff, Zelda, Miyazaki. Like, it's kind of all...
Jason Wheelhouse.
Yeah, all of my fun stuff. And the soundtrack's great. It's by Disaster Piece, who did the music for... It Follows. If you guys are fans of the Stranger Things synth score, you might like this too. So Dennis decided to do this review. You haven't played this, right?
No, it looks good.
So check out our review of Hyper Light Drifter.
Every once in a while, a game comes around that really stands out, like this new one called Hyper Light Drifter. It starts off kind of crazy, some sort of apocalypse, a demon, and a sick hero. Set off with your sword and your sidearm in search of a cure. As you slash, drift, and blast monsters in the shattered world, you'll need to collect 16 shards to unlock the 4 realms and defeat the bosses lurking in each. Visit the shops to upgrade your hero. You can't boost your health ever, but upgrading your weapons really comes in handy later on. Tough enemies and even tougher boss battles require precision drifting and timely slashing just to stay alive. But when you finally clear a room or take down a big boss, it's pretty damn rewarding. The only annoying thing is the cryptic map system. I really wanted to dig for all the extras, but I couldn't figure out where I was half the time. That aside, I really enjoyed the 16-bit world of Hyper Light Drifter. We give it an 8 out of 10. Let there be light.
Sweet.
Yeah, pretty fun game. I've had a lot of fun with just, while I was waiting for bigger titles, just playing a bunch of those little...
Been a good indie...
downloadables, yeah. So I'm also proud to present a tease for something we're going to show next week, which is a music video directed by my buddy Skinner, an amazing artist whose work you should be familiar with if you like metal kind of art. And it's for the band High on Fire, which is a metal band I really like. He did an amazing epic video that took him like 8 months to make that we helped fund. So we are going to premiere the video next week on Toonami, but this is a little tease for what you're in for. So check out the teaser for the High on Fire video. I can't remember the name of the song off the top of my head, but it's great stuff. Check it out.
Anka's mouthing it to us.
Oh, what's the name of the song, Anka? What is it? The Black Plot. It's got a storyline, and it's a pretty interesting one, so check it out. So yeah, come back next week if you want to see the full thing. It's worth it, I think. It's worth your time. And then we also have this week a new edition, it's been a while, of Moving Pictures, which I can never remember the name of because it's so bland. But that's my segment, speaking of bland, where I watch an animated film that I haven't seen before. It can be one that you guys have suggested, or in the case of this, it was just a newer film that I had heard was really good. So I checked out April in the Extraordinary World, which came out this year, and it's French, and I thought it was amazing. So here's my full review. You can get a little more sense of what the film's like. Hey there, Toonami faithful. This is Jason DeMarco with another installment of Moving Pictures. I can't even remember the name of it. That's how boring the name is. So I think I should come up with a new name. Anyway, this is Jason DeMarco with another installment of Moving Pictures, in which I watch a new or unseen by me animated film, usually based off of one of your suggestions. And for this installment, I watched a relatively new film that came out this year called April and the Extraordinary World. The name April and the Extraordinary World is somewhat of an unwieldy title. It's sort of explained in the context of the film, but just trying to sell someone on it sounds like, I don't know, it's kind of a lame title. April in the Extraordinary World is a French film. It's based on the artwork and stories of Jacques Tardy, a French comic book artist. He draws in a very clean line style, kind of like the guy who drew Tintin. April in the Extraordinary World starts in 1870, and it concerns the story of April and her family, who are scientists who are kidnapped, and April is sort of looking for her family. It's a very steampunk world, and don't let that turn you off if you're not a steampunk fan.
Pops! I'll stall them. I'll meet you at the steammobile. Go, get out of here.
In this world, Napoleon won the war, and so Napoleon rules essentially Europe. He dies at the beginning of the movie in a massive explosion in the laboratory of April's great-grandfather. April's great-grandfather is trying to develop a serum for immortality, and he doesn't get it right, at least initially.
You promised me that your ultimate serum would create an army of invulnerable, invincible warriors.
So then you fast forward to what is the 1930s, but in this 1930s, no one has invented the combustion engine, there's no electricity, so everything's steam-powered. It's classic steampunk. Obviously.
We'd like to remind our third-class passengers that they are forbidden to speak to the other passengers. Thank you, and have a pleasant journey.
We're at the point in the story where we really settle into the movie where the world is out of coal and Europe has cut down all their trees. There's only one tree left in all of Europe that resides in a greenhouse. They're considering going to war with Canada for their trees. So it's sort of post-apocalyptic because there's no trees, there's smoke everywhere in the sky. It's as if the Industrial Revolution never progressed.
Attack! Attack! Your souls will hear a call. Destroy! Destroy! The enemy must fall. Attack! Attack! As brave and restless be.
April's parents get kidnapped, and they're scientists, and they're also trying to develop the serum. And the rest of the movie concerns April trying to find her parents and developing the serum. It's got a talking cat who's a main character.
I feel like I swallowed a panther.
It very much feels like a mix of an old-school European kind of adventure with City of Lost Children, or if you've ever seen that, or just any number of sort of fanciful French films mixed with Miyazaki. So it has a little bit of that playfulness, but it's definitely an action-adventure. It's a very well-reviewed movie. The Rotten Tomatoes rating is like 98%. and the Metacritic rating is 86%. I mean, basically, if you see the movie, I have almost no doubt that you'll love it. The animation is totally gorgeous, very clean lines, 2D animation with 3D mixed in, but the 3D is seamless. You can't even tell that there's 3D in there, and it's just a wonderful action-adventure story for young adults. So it's rated PG-13 for some violence.
Look here, stop! Stop it all!
It's the kind of movie we just don't get anymore. It's an action adventure animated movie with serious themes and something to say, which, you know, we get animated movies with something to say, but they're always comedies because in America we feel better about comedy and that the movie should speak to kids, so they have to layer these kids movies with stuff for us adults. But this is a movie aimed squarely at teens and you know, young adults. It's got some wonderful sequences, it's a lot of Jules Verne-esque sort of inventions. I don't want to spoil too much of the plot, but it's got a pretty great action plot that almost hinges on the classic bad guys in a secret base type thing.
Crazy? Stop that!
Where you are, Gramps? I heard everything. I just loved it. It was one of the best things I've seen all year. I definitely think it's one of the best animated movies I've seen all year, top 3 or 4, and it's one of the best movies I've seen all year. It hasn't gotten a lot of press, of course, because it's French and it's animated, but I think if you can find it, I got it on iTunes, I'm sure it's streaming somewhere, you should check it out. I really don't have anything negative to say about it because it was pretty much perfect.
Oh, this mechanism is a masterpiece.
If you want something European, Miyazaki-esque, Jules Verne-esque, and you can stand steampunk, I think you should give April in the Extraordinary World a chance. I don't have a lot of deeper insights, but I think you guys, if you check it out and you enjoy it, let me know. And if you have any other suggestions for the next episode of Moving Pictures, just hit me up at ClarkNova1, and I'll watch him. Or I won't. Fuck you. All right, bye.
Nicely done.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think you should watch it. I think
I want to now.
I particularly feel that you would.
I was
enjoy
moved
it.
by your picture.
I think any person who likes action adventure animation will like it. It's the best animated movie I've seen in a while.
Well, based on the moving pictures we've had recently, you haven't seen very many.
What do you mean?
You haven't done one in a while. You haven't seen one in a while.
Best. Well, I haven't seen one. I haven't seen one I've done a review for, but I've seen plenty. Finding Dory and Zootopia
and that other one
and Kubo. Okay, and then finally we have this week's Adult Swim single, which premiered a couple days ago. You can get it on adultswim.com/singles, and this is a new jam by the artist Health. We've worked with Health before. They were actually on my compilation from a few years back, ATL Remix. They remixed an OJ the Juice Man song, and we always intended to work together again. So it's great that we finally circled around and were able to make it happen. They gave us a great new song. They've been kind of on a tear lately. So check out this week's Adult Swim single from Health. So yeah, again, go to adultswim.com/singles. You can get that and like a whole bunch of other songs that have come out. And that wraps it up for this week.
Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Thanks.
Bye.